This video is intended to share or go over how we get input and output from the user, and then we'll also do a little bit of debugging as well. So again, I'm using NetBeans. That's what we'll be using in this course. I'm going to choose File, New Project. I'm going to choose Java and then click on Next. Now, if you are allowing Java to create your own class and you want to keep this checked so that you don't have to keep writing out static void main, you can do that, but what I would ask you to do for purposes that you'll see soon enough is erase this first part of the statement. In other words, let's see, I'm going to do output example will be the name of my project, and notice that this says output example dot output example. So for reasons I'm just going to ask you to take at face value, you can keep this main class checked so you don't have to keep typing in the main, but then make sure you erase that beginning part and then click on finish. If you leave it in, you'll get a statement up here that says package with that name, and we're not dealing with packages right now, so you need to make sure that nothing says package and then the name of the class up here. So had we left it in, we would have seen something that said package output, which is this part that we just deleted, example, and we don't want that in what we've got going on right now. So definitely no packages. All right, then I also deleted the other information here just so we can have kind of a clearer screen. I'm going to delete all of this just so things can look a little cleaner. Incidentally, if you don't like the size of your text or you want to change some of the way things look, you can go into Tools and Options, and you've got quite a number of different choices here. In other words, I could click on Fonts and change my font size. You can change the way your editor looks. I leave that up to you. So kind of a side note. Anyway, so here we're faced with our very beginning part of our Java code. We have a public class. Remember that the class name is capitalized by convention. It doesn't have to be, but that's how we as coders agree that this is what we're going to do. So our class name is capitalized. This is also the name of our Java file. So output example.java. And we always have to start off a Java project with a main method. So here is our main. And we're sort of taking this all at face value now. We have public, static, void, main, which is a method. Method names will always start with lowercase, parenthesis, and we have this capital string. We'll understand this capital string and brackets as we go along. And then this is a variable name, but we're just using the name. This could be anything, but we're using args here. It's the example that the book uses. So this is pretty much our opening starting structure every time we start our new projects. I'm going to erase the comments so that we can kind of make our own. So I wanted to go over some things just to highlight what System.out and System.in and printing and getting information from the user. So that's where we're going to go from here. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is declare, I have to spell it correctly, you don't have to spell it correctly, but declare variables. Boy, I'm having trouble with that this morning. All right, and when we declare a variable, we have to declare variables in Java. We also have to say what type of variable it's going to be. What is the data type? So I'm going to create an int, and I'm going to write the name user number, because I'm going to use this variable to get a number from the user. So int or float or double is what we're using today. I'm going to use the int. Notice that the user number variable name is underlined with a gray underline. If I hold my mouse over it, NetBeans is just trying to politely say, hey, you've declared a variable that you haven't used. So we'll be using that, but that's a nice little prompt for me. And then also, I've used a lowercase intentionally, so we start off our variable names with a lowercase. And I've used this camel casing. In other words, I have a variable name that, to make user number a little bit clearer, the second word does not have a space. The second word is capitalized, so that way it's a little bit clearer to read. You always want to make sure that you use variable names that have some kind of meaning. So that way if somebody else reads your code, if this example, if your teacher reads your code, it's pretty clear what you're using that variable name for. X would not be very meaningful. So you want to use meaningful variable names. That's good coding practice. Okay, so then I'm going to give that a value, user number equals 6, which really doesn't mean anything at this point. We're just using that variable name in something. So now if I want to print that out, let's go ahead and do, let's see, I guess I'll give you a comment. Let's display the value. And it turns out that System.out is standard output, and standard output defaults to the monitor. So that's sort of a Java thing. So if I type in System.out, and I'm going to do print line, you can do print or print line. Remember, print line is going to make a line number at the end. No, excuse me, it will make a new line at the end, not a line number. And then we're going to type in user number. Okay, so that should run as agreed. So I'm going to click on the run button. And in fact, it did print out the 6. So that's working well. I know that's really hard to see. That is a function of my computer, so I apologize, but I assure you that says 6 and this says build successful. Okay, so a couple of things here. Let's say I misspelled print. I get this ugly squiggly line, red line, and this error letting me know that something's not right. Sometimes these error messages are really hard to decode to figure out what it is they're trying to say. Cannot find symbol just simply means you want me to do something and I don't know what print PRINLN means, so we'll fill something in there. Something else I wanted to show you before I moved on. Let's say that we didn't declare the variable name ahead of time. So I just tried to use the variable. I'm getting a same kind of error message there. It says you want me to use user number, but I don't know what it is. So that's another error that you might generate. So you always have to declare your variables ahead of time before you use them. Something else I want to show you before we go on is how to debug. I'm going to start introducing you to debugging your code. So if I click on this line number 12, I get a red line. So this is a breakpoint, it's called. And so what will happen when I run this in debug mode, I can run it step by step. So all of this code will run, but it'll stop at this point where I've set the breakpoint. And the reason I want to do that, perhaps, let's go ahead and run it. I'm going to choose debug and debug my project. And what will happen is all this code has run up to this point, and it stops at this line. So this line hasn't run yet. So up to this point, I can look in this debug window, and I can see what values have been set at this point in time. So args is something we'll get to. We've sort of mentioned that, and we're going to gloss over that for the moment. But here's my variable user number. And so at this moment in time, before I run any more code, I can see that it has been set and it has a value of 6. So as our code gets more complex, this can become very helpful. We can watch the values of our variables change line by line. So I'm just going to continue to run it at this point. And it's finished running. It ran the rest of the code because there was no more lines, and you can see that the 6 printed. So that can be really helpful, and we'll work with that more as we go along. All right, well, this really doesn't have any meaning, just putting in a hard-coded 6 and then printing it out. So the next thing we're going to do is get input from our user. So in order to get input from the user, we're going to get something from System.out, System.in, sorry. System.in is the input, standard input, and it turns out that it defaults to the keyboard. So we want to use System.in to get information from the keyboard, and we can use things in order, just like we did print ln to get information out. We're going to use things like next int method, or we might use next double, or method, or we might use next float. Okay, I'm purposely avoiding strings at the moment, so we're just dealing with numbers, and we'll deal with strings in, I think, chapter 4. But for now, we're just going to deal with numbers. So these are methods that we're going to use to get specific values from our users from the keyboard. Now, it seems like intuitively it would be nice if we could simply do, just like we've done before, system.in.next double, for example. And that would be really lovely. However, when we put just system.in next double, which makes sense, we get this error. We get this nasty little red thing, cannot find symbol. Well, unfortunately, for whatever reason, we can't just do system. We have to do a little bit something fancy. We have to jump through a little extra hoops in order to receive information in from the user. So what we need to do, first of all, is we need to create what's called an object. So if you've had object-oriented programming language before, this is going to make sense. If this is new to you, it'll make more sense as we go along. So I'm just going to explain it kind of briefly, and then either take it at face value or just at least get the words thrown at you, so eventually they'll have meaning. But I'll do my best to explain it sort of simply, and then as we go through the semester, this will have a lot more meaning. So we have to create an object. An object is what we call it. Called scanner. Okay, and I'm going to try and make this a little bit easier. So I don't know, an object and a scanner, that's all seems pretty fancy. But what I want you to think about is if we're going to create a little worker bee. And if you think of bees, they have different types of bees. In other words, there's a queen bee, and the queen bee has a specific task, and there's a worker bee, and a worker bee has specific tasks. So I want you to think of the fact that we're going to create a little bee, a little worker bee for us. And so maybe that worker bee, and we'll call our worker bee input. Well, there really isn't such thing in Java as a worker bee or a queen bee, but there is such thing as a scanner. So we'll think of our little scanner bee, and our little scanner work bee is going to be named input. Not a very creative name, but it is going to be receiving input from the user's keyboard. So we're going to create here we're just declaring our little bee. We're creating our little bee, and we're going to give it a variable name, but we have to explain just like we've done up here. So here we've created a user number of the type int. Now we're creating a little worker bee of the type scanner. And so now we have to create a new one. So we're going to create a new instance of our worker bee. So we're going to create a new scanner. And in this case, we're going to have to tell the little worker bee is going to be an IO type worker bee. Okay? So I get these nasty red lines, so something isn't making sense yet, and I agree with you. But for now, let's just keep walking. So we have our little scanner, worker bee. This is the type of bee we're creating. We're going to call our little bee. We're going to give it the name input. We're creating, here's where we're giving birth to our bee. We're creating a new worker bee, a new scanner, and it's going to do system.io. So it's going to get information. I'm sorry, this shouldn't be in, this should be in. There we go, that makes sense. Okay, so we're going to get, as opposed to system.out, system.in, and by default, that's going to get us information from the monitor. Well, that's all great and good, but I still have all these red lines and things aren't making sense yet. All right, well, here's the situation. Java by itself, just left by itself, knows how to find information about system.out. But it doesn't know what system.in, it doesn't know what all of this stuff, it doesn't know where to find the code that explains how to create this worker bee. And so at the very beginning of our code, above our public class, we're going to import something called java.util.scanner. And what we're doing here is teaching Java where to go find the code that is written that talks about this scanner little worker bee. And so now that we've done that, we've explained, well, if you go look here at this particular file-ish, but this is where you can find information that's written, code that was written by somebody else to describe how a scanner behaves. And so now that we've done that, we can run this code that says scanner. We can create our new little worker bee. So that got rid of that red line. But here we still have problems, don't we? We still have got this little, what's going on here? Well, if we get information from our user, we have to put it somewhere. Anytime we ask the user to give us information, we need to put it into a variable that receives the information. Well, as it turns out, we've created a variable, user number, to receive information. So we can say user number equals system.in.nextDouble. Well, I'm still getting an error. Now the situation is it's saying I still can't find a next double. Well, it turns out I also have an error here. This isn't system.in. What we're using is this input. We need to use this little worker bee because the worker bee is the one that's doing this work. And so this should now be instead of system.in, system.in is being taken care of when we created the little worker bee. So now what we should be putting here is the word input, because we're asking our little worker bee, hey little worker bee, you know what to do. You need to get a next double from our user. Well, let's see, I still got an error message, and now it's saying something about a possible lossy conversion from double to int. Well, I purposely am showing you some of these errors because I'm assuming you'll encounter some of these. And so now what we're looking at is I've asked for a double, and I'm putting a double into user number, but what is user number? User number is an int, not a double. And so we've got a conversion error here. Whenever we assign a value to a variable, we have to make sure that that value is the same data type that we declared the variable. So to fix this, if I use next int instead, then that error goes away and all is looking good. So I have no more red squiggly lines, and so let's run it and see what happens. So I'm going to click on run. And now what happened? So our first thing is our 6 ran. That worked. System out print user number 6. That's good. And now this is just sitting here flashing. And what's flashing is waiting for our input. So I should put in the 6. Yay, all worked. Well, this doesn't really make sense. We should have put this after the fact. And now maybe we don't need to make our user number. Incidentally, when we run this, it automatically compiles and saves our code, so we don't have to hit save unless you want to, just for good measure. So now our cursor is waiting for us to input something. So I'm going to input something different. We'll input 4 and all work just fine. So that's an introduction to using our system in and system out, and how we need to make that all work.